How's it going, my fellow history scholars? Welcome back to the podcast where we talk about the unanswered questions of history and unravel the mysteries and the many questions we ask about our past. Today, our special guest star is Salman Sheikh, who's going to be sharing with us what Sufism is. He is the author of a book as well as a YouTube personality. So, Salman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Brother Jacob, for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be here with yourself and your audience and to share the aspect of Sufism, Freemasonry, and how it's tied in together in this aspect of self-improvement and how the man can improve himself and bring himself to basically an ascended master in the age of chaos that we're dealing with currently. So I thank you for having me and your audience.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. And I know we scheduled this for a while back. We had a little time confusion, but I'm glad we're finally able to get on here and start talking about this interesting subject. It's something that I really don't know that much about, so I was excited to be able to get you on here to share all your knowledge and the information you've learned about Sufism.
Yes, definitely. And Sufism, basically, Brother Jacob, is the aspect of purification of the self. So it's just like you have in Star Wars, the Jedi Master. And the Jedi basically is the Arabic word al-Jedi, meaning master of the way. So that basically comes from the aspect of Sufism, even in the Holy Land when the Knights Templar were studying with the Sufis and the Ismaili Shias, and they were collaborating with that brotherhood and knowledge. So Sufism is basically, it's the inner mysteries of Islam, like how in the Bible it says in Mark 4:11, when Christ says that some of you will be taught the inner mysteries who will get it, while those of you will be taught who don't get it in the exterior realm in parables. So Sufism is the same way, where you have the people of the bench who were taught the inner mysteries of Islam by the Prophet Muhammad. And you have the other exterior world of Islam, which is basically divided into Sunni, Shia, and their own sectarian issues that they're dealing with. And you have that struggle going on everywhere. And the Sufism aspect is basically to do the right thing and become a better human being. Just like how the Mason has a rough ashlar and he's given the tools to smooth out his ashlar from the rough to basically becoming a smooth master, to master of himself, and to know thyself and to know thy Lord is the same thing that Sufism teaches, is to find God or to get close to God or to get close to your fellow man. First, you have to basically work on your qualities and fight with your lower nature and get rid of all of the bad qualities, get connected with your heart. And basically, they believe in this Mohammedan reality. And the Mohammedan reality basically means that there was the light of Muhammad. So people mainly think about the physical prophet that manifested in the 6th century. So they believe in the beginning of time and space, God had created this light of Muhammad. And from that light, everything comes. So the earth, the stars, the galaxies, humanity, all the unseen and seen forces of Mother Earth. So with the Sufi, he puts that in his heart, that how can I hate anybody if everything comes from this one source, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, American, you name it, everything is connected to that one source. And that's why in the Sufi aspect, when somebody dies, they'd say to Allah, God we belong, and to him we shall return. So everything is basically an illusion. This world is basically a guest house. I checked in anytime I could. I came out of my mother's womb empty, naked. That's the same way I'll go when my time comes. We'll be empty and naked. But the things that you do take with you is, what good did you do for yourself and other people? And that relates to the aspect of the Holy Quran, where it says in Surah 2, verse 62, that it doesn't matter if you're a Jewish, Christian, or Muslim. As long as you believe in God, do the right thing, and are righteous, then on the day of judgment you shall have no grief. And that's important to stress that, because there are a lot of agents of chaos that like to create divide between Muslim Americans and other Americans in general, saying that we believe that Jews and Christians are infidels, which is untrue. We're all brothers and sisters on this path, trying to get closer to each other, get close to God, trying to do the right thing. And it also said about the Masonic aspect in Surah 49 that, O mankind, the believers are but one brotherhood. So the Sufi is going through this internal struggle to let go of this world and the attachments around it, because we're basically put in this aspect, Brother Jake, that You got to work a job. You got to do all of these things and expectations that society puts on you. And you didn't just come here to pay bills and die. There was more to your life than an existence that matters in this realm. And that's what the Sufi is trying to connect in terms of helping himself, his family, his fellow neighbors. So when I became a Freemason, I realized that this is the exact same thing that I was doing in terms of Sufism being the Eastern parent or the Eastern version of Freemasonry. And seeing that in the West, it was basically like home for me. And that's what I've been doing is there's a lot of people, even in the Islamic community, Brother Jake, who have misconceptions about Freemasonry. And there's people in the Masonic world who don't know much about Islam. So basically, I found my purpose. On this side, I'm clearing up misconceptions. And on this side, I'm educating them about who's who, what, where, why, etc. So I prepared a PowerPoint for your audience, which will help me articulate all of this in a very well-designed fashion, which will answer all of your audience's questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And one comment there, I think that people don't realize the connection that all the monotheistic religions have, that especially with Freemasonry, that we're all able to gather together and we don't have to fight. There's no need to fight, and there's no need for this division that we see so much in the world. And so I love that you brought that up, that Sufism says that as long as you believe in God, that everybody can be treated as brothers.
Exactly. And I
think that's basically the teachings of Masonry right there, summed up.
That's exactly right. And it's beautiful, Brother Jake, that where else in the world right now, especially with all the chaos taking place, whether you're a Jew, Muslim, Christian, you could come together on the table of brotherhood, on the table of God, and love each other, respect each other. And the Masons are teaching humanity, especially people here, that if we can do it, why can't you? It doesn't matter what your position is, what neighborhood you live in, your socioeconomic status, your race. All those things are artificial barriers. That's what the Sufi says, that you are basically a manifestation of a human being, and you have to find God in your heart. If I have God in my heart, so do you. Because, you know, the aspect of the Mohammedan reality, we're all part of that one source. So that's what I'm trying to stress is you have agents of chaos that exist in all races, religions, countries, and groups in the world, because there's always that internal struggle between the light and the dark. So you got to know what's fact, what's fiction, what's myth, what's propaganda, and know that anything that's teaching division of any kind, that's not of God. That's not what those faiths are teaching. And that's what the beauty that I had in this country when I first came to America. I was in a all-American Midwestern town before I came to Philadelphia, and it was beautiful. People don't really ask you who you are and all these other things. And I was attending Bible school and I was attending Quran classes on the same day. And I realized, I realized that everyone is teaching the same exact thing. They're all teaching the same thing. All of these religions are a code of conduct. They're teaching you how to be a good human being, how to live a good, lawful life. And that's pretty much it. So if there's 6 ways from here, from Philadelphia to come to Chicago, from the different interstates, it's all taking me to the same destination, no matter which interstate I take. Mm-hmm. So with these different faiths, what the Sufi teaches is no matter what faith you're taking, it's all taking you to the same destination, which is in God's heart and in God's love. And that's what I see in the Masonic Brotherhood as well, those that are exemplifying that unity. I see no one else doing it, and that's why I believe Freemasonry is a pivotal force, not just in America, but around the world, that's needed in today's chaotic world.
Right, and I don't know if there's an Islamic equivalent or not, but there is a Bible verse that says that the word of God, that God is written on every man's heart. So everybody knows God, but there's several different ways to reach him, and I think that's the beautiful part of religion. But yeah, if you want to share your presentation, I'm sure we'd love that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Do you see it, Brother Jake?
Yep, I have it here. I'll pull it up for you.
Okay. Can you hear me and see the screen?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So it's like what I pointed out with Brother Jake. This is a presentation which answers the aspect of Sufism, and also what we find in Freemasonry. And I hope that all of your listeners and viewers will be able to take something away from this. So I'll start a quote from William Preston, whom my lodge is named after. And he says, "The true Mason is a citizen of the world, and his philanthropy extends to all the human race. Uninfluenced by local prejudices, he knows no preference in virtue, but according to its degree from whatever country or climate may spring." So just like how I was as a young man attending Bible school, and I was attending Quran classes on the same day, and I realized that it's all teaching the truth. So the true Mason is the one, Brother Jake, that finds light at every altar, just like how Brother Manly Palmer Hall stated one time too in one of his lectures, that no matter where you find the light, as long as it's helping you become a better human being, no matter what clime or country it comes from, then you apply that to your life. Like the Masonic double-headed eagle, it looks both in the east and the west because it knows that light comes from all directions of the globe.
Right, and for those who don't know, Manly P. Hall, he was a huge philosophist, a huge philosophy person, esoteric. How do you say that? Esoteric?
He was a philosopher, a mystic, and an esoteric.
Philosopher, mystic, yep, and esoteric, yep. And he wrote these beautiful books about how all of these different religions have their symbolism and they have their different styles of mythology, but ultimately, like Salman's sharing here, that they all tell the same story. And so if you guys haven't already, I definitely recommend that you read The Secret Teachings of All Ages, because that's one of his greatest books for sure.
Definitely, Brother Jake. I highly recommend that book, and I also recommend his other book, which is The Mystics of Islam, which also gives you a perspective, because Manly Palmer Hall was a Brother Mason as well. So that also gives you the Sufi Masonic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the 3 stages. So in Masonry, you have the 3 stages where one becomes the master of self and the elements around him. In Sufism, you have the same thing. So you have this first stage, which is fighting the ego and coming to light. Most people on spiritual paths, they often resist. There's always a resistance of some kind. And the definition of Islam, what Islam really is, just means to submit to a higher power or a higher divinity. And that's pretty much it. So by definition, a Muslim is one who believes in a higher power and submits to that. Same in the aspect of what we're dealing with in Islam and Sufism. In Freemasonry, you have to believe in a supreme being. So it's the aspect of fighting the ego and coming to light. The second stage is the tariqah, to unite with the grand architect of the universe. Now, if you read Rumi's poems, this is what he means by uniting with his beloved, because the Sufi basically lets go of this world and he wants to become one with his love, which is God. The third stage is the marifah, the act of know thyself and know thy Lord. With the biblical verse that Brother Jake pointed out, there's also a verse in the Holy Quran in Surah 50 that says that Almighty God is closer to you than your jugular vein. So we're always looking for God outside in the skies, not knowing that God is already playing hide and seek with you within your own heart and in your own soul, the place where you'll least expect to look, to find that divinity within you and to basically become a purification or the tazkiyah ul nafs of the Sufi who's following the path of tasawwuf. Tasawwuf meaning one who is pure, and on the aspect of purification of the self. Now,
right, and on the other side of that, Masonry teaches you to build the temple within yourself, that God is within yourself. That's also prevalent in Christianity. They say that the Holy Spirit is within yourself. So we see a lot of these same themes across multiple religions.
That's exactly right. And I thank you for pointing that out. There's another thing in the Holy Bible, Brother Jake, that the kingdom of heaven is within. And if you find that within, then that's the most beautiful thing you can accomplish in this life. And now we're dealing with the 4 worlds and the 4 realms of knowledge. So the Sufi is dealing with this is the first world where we're in, the 3D world, which is matter, earth, water, air, fire, and ether. So we're dealing with this 3D reality around us, and that's the aspect of knowing God and the world. To know what is it that you're dealing with in terms of the world and your responsibilities as a human being within it. And just like how the Mason is taught to balance his time correctly, the Sufi is also taught to balance the world and his faith correctly. So you're not dedicating too much time to one thing. There's always a balance. And know that you're not taking time away from yourself, from your health, from your family, etc., and those kind of things. The second realm that you're dealing with is the spiritual beings, which are jinns, angels, heaven and hell, cause and effect. Now, this is the aspect of as above, so below. Now, what's going
Mhm.
on here in this 3D reality that we're in currently? There's also reality taking place above us and beneath us. And depending on your perception and your action in this lifetime, you do attract the attraction of many of these beings. So if there's a spiritual war taking place here right now in our reality from our eyes and our point of view, there's one taking place with our higher selves as well in the fourth
Mhm.
dimension. And that's where a lot of you have a lot of powerful beings and masters in this life that might live boring, humdrum lives, but some of the real spiritual warfare that they're doing and some of the real work for humanity that they're doing is always done on the spiritual realm. And that's why meditation and I guess being able to access that realm through purification and prayers is very much stressed in the Sufi path. So the third realm that we're dealing with is the source of the lost word, the hidden tablet, the knowledge of spirit. Just like how the
Oh,
Masons are looking for the lost word. And we have the fourth realm, which is the realm of the grand architect of the universe, which is pure essence and God being the only reality. So the Sufis have a saying that Allah, God, is the only reality, and that this life is a game of deception. It's all a show, which it says that in the Quran too, in Surah 5, that the life of this world is an illusion and a deception, but only if they knew. And they tell you that your real life begins when you die and you wake up. So that aspect of death and rebirth and becoming one with yourself is very much stressed in the Sufi path as well. So now you're dealing with the five pillars of Islam, and that's basically what makes up the faith of Islam. So you have the first pillar, which is Shahada, the creed. In the Masonic terms, it could be to believe in a supreme being. The second, prayer, to be about your work, to get the work done, do the right thing, do the prayers, just like how you have prayers in the lodge room. The third is fasting, to circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds, just like how a Mason must control
yeah.
his passions. The fourth pillar, Hajj, which is pilgrimage. So if it's within your means to do so, the Muslim or the Sufi, one and the same, must once in their lifetime, if they're financially capable of doing so, make a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in the east to fulfill one of their religious obligations. Just like how they tell you in Freemasonry that if you're able to afford it and afford the dues and all that stuff, then that's when you're able to begin your path by not being a burden to yourself or your family or your job. The fifth is zakat, which is almsgiving, to be a charitable human being, to give charity, to be a charitable individual. Like we have Masonic charities, Masonic homes, and all this stuff that happens. It's part of who you are. And these pillars of Islam go with the aspect of what we learn in Masonry, the pillars of Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite,
Mhm.
and to learn the arts and sciences and to basically apply these things to our lives. Now, the second part that we're looking at here is the jihad. Now, there's been a misconception in this country, especially by the agents of chaos who have been spreading lies through these different media venues to get people to hate Muslims or that divide that's been created. So the word jihad is basically struggle against the self. And the Prophet said that the greatest jihad that you can do is against your own lower nature and struggle against the nafs, the jihad al nafs, which is the greatest battle that you can do. Because ultimately, Brother Jake, your greatest enemy and your greatest friend is ultimately you when you look in the mirror and how you choose to shape your reality and some of the barriers and intrusive thoughts that come into your mind. If you tear them down and you submit, which is submission, the meaning of Islam, or in Masonry, to submit to the grand architect or the supreme being, it's pretty much one and the same that you have to live a life of good conduct and control any lower passions and live a good, clean life. And that's basically what this is teaching you. And again, we move on to the Mohammedan reality. So most people, when they hear the name Muhammad, they think of the 6th century prophet. But just like how you have the aspect of being brought from darkness to light, in the beginning there was darkness, and the Sufis believed that God created this light of Muhammad. And from this light, all existence of humanity was created, like the solar system, the earth, the stars, humanity, the plants, animals, trees, etc. So everything comes from this one source. So the Sufi who believes in this Mohammedan reality says that if everything comes from this one light, how can I hate anybody? Whether it's a Jewish person, Christian, Muslim, they're all my brothers and sisters. We all come from the same source in this spiritual school that we're in. Just like how in the Masonic world, we're all on the level. So it's pretty
Right.
much one and the same. You have the aspect of what is the Sufi and the Mason, Brother Jake? And the goal of the Sufi is to become one with his beloved, the grand architect of the universe, and to become better. Adab, in the Arabic word adab is your character, in his character and being honored to self and humanity. The goal of the Mason is to believe in God, honor his brothers, smooth his ashlar, and be a better man. So as you see, it's two paths, one destination. Now this is a part that most people don't know, even your people in your conventional Islam, that the Prophet Muhammad was a widow's son. And the
Mm,
Prophet Muhammad lost his father at a young age and was raised by his mother, a widow, till the age of 6. And what do Masons do? They take care of widows and orphans. And
right.
he was adopted by his uncle, who took care of this orphan, the son of a widow, so he could prepare him for the life that he was meant to lead. And when he came, he said, "I have come to perfect the adab, character of mankind." Just like how you have the aspect of Masonry to perfect one's character. And he established religious and racial freedom with his decrees, dealing of Hazrat Bilal, covenant with the monks of St. Catherine Monastery, and the Constitution of Medina, which gave rights to Jews and Christians, instructed mankind to become one ummah community and be on the level. Now, just like after the death of any religious leader or any spiritual leader, you'll have those that will take over and have their own perversions and agendas. But as I'm pointing out here, the only person that followed the true teachings of the Prophet was Saladin in the Holy Land when he protected the Christian churches, the Christian pilgrims, their relics, because he was following what the Prophet had established, which is that the Muslim must protect his Christian brothers and sisters, his Jewish brothers and sisters, those that are following the true Islam do those things. But then again, it's like I said, no organization or no country or background is going to be perfect. You're always going to have those that are struggling between light and dark, but we must focus on those that are following the true teachings, and we must establish that how we have to become one, because ultimately everything is indeed one.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the connections with Saladin and the Templars because I've had brother Scott Wolter on and his wife Janet Wolter, and they talk a lot about the Templars and the possibility of coming to America. And I also had Gretchen Cornwell on, who does a lot of stuff with the Templars as well. But we never got to talk about how the Templars were tied in with Sufism in this way by being connected to Saladin. And I
Yeah, of
think it's
course.
really such an important lost story, especially for Masonry, who essentially wants to take hail from the Templars. It's not confirmed, obviously, but being the builders of Solomon's Temple and the Templars hailing from Solomon's Temple, there's that symbolism. So that connection there, Sufism and Saladin, I think is something that we really need to bring up more in
Yeah,
lodges and stuff.
I agree with you completely, and that's something that Brother Jake that I need to stress to the Masonic scholars and historians, that there is a link between the Templars and the assassins, the Ismaili Shias, who are known as
Mm-hmm.
the Hashishin, and the aspect of the Sufis that they were all studying together. This is all, if you go to the Middle East and if you attend a lot of the underground Masonic circles, those legends are still there. And it's unfortunately in the West, they just don't cover it. I guess they have their own interpretation of how they see things. But then again, we have to look at Masonry and the double headed eagle. Knowledge comes from all directions. So you take knowledge from the West, East, West. It all applies the same thing. And there is a hidden power structure, even if you've seen the John Wick movies in the third one, that there is the aspect of the hidden power structure in the East, where the only people that could save him were the assassins of the East. So now we're dealing with the all-seeing eye of the grand architect of the universe. So you have the 99 names of Allah. So the Sufis believe that there are these different names, but the 100th name is missing, just like how the Mason is trying to look for the lost name. And one of the names of Allah is Al-Basir, the all-seeing. And they say the camel knows the 100th name of God, which starts with the letter G. And that's why
symbolism.
yeah, and that's even in the Shriners, now you know that why the camel is regarded with its Islamic theme.
Yeah.
So the Al-Basir, Brother Jake, is one of the names of Allah. The Sufi says that he's aware of the deeds done in darkness. And there's a story that goes along with this, that there was a Sufi sheikh, or the equivalent of a worshipful master, and he had 3 students, or equivalent of 3 brothers under him, and he tasked them each that I will give you this chicken, and you go and kill it in a place where no one can see it. So the first guy took it in his house and killed it there. The second guy took it to the forest and did it there. And the third one, he got it right because, obviously it happens in threes. So he came back to the sheikh, the master, and said that I couldn't do it anywhere because everywhere I was, the all-seeing eye of the grand architect of the universe was watching me. And that's one thing that people don't understand in this lifetime, that you do not get away with anything. There's always a price to pay for your seen and unseen actions of this life. So you must always be accountable that whatever you're doing, even if you're 100 miles underground, that all-seeing eye of the grand architect will hold you accountable. Because, Brother Jake, we get lost in this life and think that, a man has to chase women, cars, degrees, titles, homes.
Right.
But if I go to sleep right now after I'm done speaking with you and I don't wake up, what is any of that going to do for me? It's about what good did you do for yourself and others. That's the spiritual wealth that you ultimately take with you. And that's what the Sufi is stressing. And that's what the Mason is stressing, that it's not always about money that will be, hold you accountable in terms of your admission and your value. It's about your heart. That's the main thing.
Right. And sadly, our material world doesn't realize that tomorrow is promised to no one. So even the idea of, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll take care of those chores tomorrow, I'll save up all my money. No, the Bible teaches against that. And I'm sure the Quran teaches against that as well, that tomorrow is promised to nobody. So we should be choosing to live each and every day to the best of our ability.
Exactly. And I agree with you, my brother, completely. And I would like to add with your audience that if there's anybody you need to call, pick up the phone and apologize and be the better person, or you need to text somebody, just do it, because tomorrow is not promised. If there's anybody that you want to tell that you love them, do it now, because tomorrow is not promised. And that's what will make your life worthwhile, when you live each day with that mentality. So now we're moving on to the brethren of the white cloth, equally divested and on the level. Now, as you notice, Brother Jake, when you have the innocence of the lambskin of a master mason, when you're in a lodge and you see master masons who's never met before, but when they see each other with that innocence of the lambskin, they greet each other as long lost friends. So in Masonry, there are no strangers, just friends that you have yet to meet. Right. And that's the same exact thing. If you go to the holy city of Mecca, as you see in the picture, it doesn't matter what your race or religion is. They're all equally wearing that white cloth of purity. They're equally divested. It doesn't matter if one of them could be a president or a CEO or a janitor or whatever position there is. They're all equally divested. And the name of this cloth, interestingly, is the ihram, which phonetically is Hiram. So all of these brothers are Hirams on the level. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And that, Brother Jake, is what changed Malcolm X's life. When Malcolm X was here, he was being taught to hate white people, that the white man is the devil. And that's not what Islam teaches. When he went to the Middle East and he saw the holy city of Mecca in the East, he saw that white, black, Pakistani, Arabs, it doesn't matter who they were. Everyone was equally loving each other and respecting each other. And that's the guideline that true Sufi Islam and true Masonry promotes. And that, my brother, is what we have to fight for, and even call out those who are not representing it properly. because it is a big responsibility, and we have to make sure that the world we inherited, we give a better world to the generation that comes after us.
For sure. And for those not familiar with Masonry, that's one of the coolest things I would say about Masonry for sure is that everybody meets upon the level. So you could never have met somebody in your life in lodge, and when you come across them, they're no different than your brother, your biological brother. That's how close Masons are, and that's how everybody in the world should act.
I agree, my brother. Absolutely correct. And now we're back on that topic of life being short. In Masonry, you have the memento mori, which you see the brother Masons who are always have the skulls in the background, and they always are promoting the aspect of the skull. So the skull is basically, for the people that don't get it, it's not anything evil. It's just promoting the aspect of your life, that you have this short human life that's been given to you, and make the best of it. Don't waste your time. Just like what Sufi Islam teaches in the Holy Quran, that every soul will taste death. You cannot escape this. And we test you with evil and with good as trial. And to us you will be returned. So both good and evil come from the grand architect of the universe, because it's just like in Masonry. You have the black and white tiles. You have good days, bad days, good days. Because if it weren't for your struggles and the things that you went through, you wouldn't be who you are today. So those things are important, that, let's say, even for yourself, Brother Jake, to be a soldier or to be in the service, you have to go through those trials and tribulations. Otherwise, you cannot be who you are in your current standing. Same with the Sufi or the Mason. They have to go through their own trials, tribulations, and be able to walk that path with faith, by putting their faith in God and knowing that everything somehow, some way works out. That's why in the Islamic world, especially with, in the terms of war and these other things, they're not afraid to die, because they know that this whole life is an illusion. And that's why anytime there's a conflict of any kind, they'll be the first, even though that it's wrong and it should be avoided, they'll be the first to basically go for that aspect of war to defend themselves and their families, because they're not afraid to die. And that's what Masonry is teaching too, that while you have this life, make the best of it without any fear whatsoever. Now we have the aspect of on the level. Now, just any Masonic lodge you go to in America or all over the world, you always have all of the different holy scriptures displayed on the same table. And this is what it says in the Holy Quran from the Sufi aspect, from Surah 2, verse 62. That those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and the Christians and the Sabians, any who believe in Allah, God, and the last day, and work righteousness, shall have their reward with their Lord. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Just like in the Masonic system, they're respecting all of these books as volumes of sacred laws, and they tell you whatever path that you follow, as long as you follow the path of righteousness, the upright man, the upright Mason, and always doing the right thing, then you will always have that reward with the grand architect of the universe. And this is something that I want to point out for those that are promoting hate between Muslims, Jews, and Christians. But we all come from that same tree. And that's what we have to do in the aspect of this chaotic world that we're dealing with. As if nobody else is doing it, it falls on individuals like us to promote that unity. Now you have the also aspect of the verse, Surah 49, verse 10, that the believers are but brothers. So make peace between your two brothers and be mindful of God, so that you may be given mercy. And even the aspect down here, that we make no distinction between any of his messengers. So Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Solomon, peace be upon them all. And no matter what path you follow, as long as it's helping you get to God, then you're doing the right thing. And that's what the Masonry teaches as well, that as long as you follow what path works for you the right way, and you're meeting everybody on the level, then you're on the right path. Now, the Sufis, Brother Jake, believe in La ilaha illallah. So anytime you see like a Sufi gathering, or you seeing the dervishes like doing their chantings and meditations, they're always going to be chanting La ilaha illallah. And La ilaha illallah is basically are these 7 syllables. that connect to you and tell you that God is the only reality, or the grand architect is the only reality. And with the 7 syllables, it ties into the 7th letter, which is G, in our Masonic square and compass. And
Mhm.
this basically is teaching us, Brother Jake, that your inner temple, like your lower chakra, like working your way up to basically be the Al Jedi, or the Jedi, the master of the way, to work your way up from this root area and go through all of this stuff so you can become more spiritually aware with God. And that's the path the Mason is following as well, is the purification of self, that each day he has to sit down and think, is there anything that I could have done better? Is there anything that I could have said better? And is there anybody that I believe that I might have not done justice by? And that's the same aspect, that you have to overwork those things.
The idea of hewing the rough ashlar, which is one of the biggest testaments in Freemasonry. It's
Exactly,
always to
brother.
got to make yourself better and to live each and every day better. So
Exactly. Now you have the aspect of to be duly tested and tried. Now, in Sufism, if you ever go to in these Eastern countries like I have, and you go to a lot of these Sufi shrines, which are sometimes they're in the middle of nowhere, because they only want those that are true and worthy to journey there and be able to visit those places. A lot of the times, what you'll see is you'll see a beggar outside, and the beggar will always test you. And unbeknownst to you, you might be dealing with the master of the place. But when you walk by, he will test you,
mm,
test your heart. He will ask you for money or ask you for food. So we're talking all of this good stuff about humanity and all this stuff, but a lot of these masters will catch you one on one, and they will see, is this person who he really says he is, or is he just talking? So you do get tested and tried on this path, Brother Jake. Just like how after you become a master mason, you will see everybody coming out of the woodworks in the terms of beggar, those that ask you for money, those that need your help. So that's important that you don't fail those trials, because those trials are there to test you, to see, like, Jake and Salman are saying all of these things, but are they really going to be about it when the time comes?
right.
And it's the same thing on the left hand side, where you have the Salomonari, which they also come from Romanian mythology. And as you see with the Salomonari, he has a collar, he's holding a gavel, he's holding a stick, he's holding a book with the Masonic double-headed eagle. And these people
Mm-hmm.
are believed to be coming from the inner earth. So I was able to tie the Sufi with the Salomonari, and they say King Solomon himself came from this inner earth civilization, because they were like these ascended masters, and they disguised themselves as beggars. And that's what the parallel that I made with Masonry and Sufism is, when somebody in distress comes and asks you for help, that's when your character is tested.
Right, and connecting that in, I don't want to give away too much for those people that aren't a part of Masonry, but we have what's called the Chamber of Reflections, and on the wall is Latin words. I think they're Latin, vitriol, which means visit the interior of the earth and basically to cleanse yourself. So again, that might even be in reference to this inner civilization that you're talking about, and
Exactly.
tie in that you're to journey within yourself, journey within the earth, physical and spiritual, both represented right there, to cleanse yourself and make yourself better.
Yes, exactly right. And as you see, like even with the Solomonari elder, he's dressed as a Mason in all of his the representation that he embodies himself. So now we move on to the master of the work. So no, in the aspect of Sufism or Islam, Brother Jake, you have to memorize the Holy Quran, like from front to back, back to front, like all 114 chapters of the Quran, and all of this aspect of Arabic and English, in whichever way the student is able to do it. But Arabic is stressed more, and
Is
that's the
this just
equivalent.
for is this just for Muslims, or is this for Sufis?
It's basically one and the same.
One and the same.
Yeah, so it's basically how you have a worshipful master in the lodge, where he has to be the master of the work, because these traditions have been passed on to you, and masonry won't survive into the next generation if more people are not becoming a master of the work and passing that on to future generations. So that's what Sufism stresses as well, that you have to be the master of the work, because originally when the Quran was revealed, it was transmitted orally. And then by the time they were able to write it down in books and parchments, the only way it survived was because of those that had memorized it orally. It's like in Denzel Washington's movie, The Book of Eli. The only way the Bible survived in the post-apocalyptic world was because of this individual who had memorized it from cover to cover. So it's important that there are those that learn the work to not only serve themselves, but be able to serve their lodges and to be able to serve their communities for the upcoming generations.
And for those that don't know, to actually qualify for the first 3 degrees of Masonry, you're required to memorize a series of rituals. And it's important because, again, just like Salman was saying, that you become master of this work, that you actually are able to understand it and recite it if people were to ask you about it. And then I also remember a story, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in esotericism, there's a person known as Hermes Trismegistus,
Yeah.
who was supposedly the creator of the written language, I think. And then I think somebody asked him, he's like, don't you know that by creating the written language that mankind will come to forget a lot of the stuff that they've been memorizing up to this point? And even the Hebrew testaments, the Old Testament of the Holy Bible, a lot of that was written down from word of mouth. So it's, again, the importance of actually remembering the work and being able to recite it to others that may not know about it.
Exactly, my brother. And you're right. Exactly. There's a lot of truth in those different teachings. And it's like I said, whether you're finding the truth from Sufism from the East, or like ancient Greek truths from Hermes Trismegistus from ancient Greece, there's truth to be found in all of those different venues, because it's all tying you back into that same truth, which is to know thyself and to know thy reality, or to know thyself and to know thy Lord. Which, even if you go to the House of the Temple, the Scottish Rite Center in Washington, D.C., you will see those same, basically that same saying inscribed there. So it's like what we say, Brother Jake, moving on to the aspect of us believing in God no matter what. And it's, the Sufi believes in the same thing, that Allah, God, is the guardian of those who believe. He brings them out of the darkness into the light. So in this world right now, you have about a population of 7 billion people. And out of the 7 billion, only 6 million people are Freemasons, because not everybody has the, I guess, tenacity inside of them to be a true believer. And how that verse that I pointed out earlier in the Quran, that it tells you that mankind, or the believers, are but one brotherhood. So those that put their faith in God, and how even in Masonry, you're taught to put your faith in God. And then that same faith brings you from darkness into the light. So, as you see that I'm tying this with Sufism and Freemasonry, is pretty much one and the same thing. And that's why I felt so at home with Freemasonry. And I was thinking, this is the same exact thing that I was already doing.
Yeah.
And it just helps me basically bring that venue from the Western perspective as well. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and like I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, I knew probably little to nothing about Sufism, and not very much about Islam at all. But as Salman's been sharing this presentation with us, I see a lot of these common themes with other religions, Christianity, Judaism, with that, which I know a little bit more about because I'm European, so that's it's natural for me. But also with Masonry, and then the fact that all of these are tied together, and that they're really all one and the same time, the same story.
Indeed, my brother. That's basically all that there is. And that's the beauty of Islam, is that they tell you that the definition of it, as long as you believe in God, by definition, you're a Muslim. And same thing in Masonry, as long as you believe in a supreme being and you're of a good character, you're a Mason. And now we move on to the aspect of being humble, the story of the beggar. Now, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is one of the greatest Sufi masters that existed in this world. And I encourage everybody, if you want to get a good understanding of Sufism, not just from what I'm sharing here, but on your own, look up literature and writings from Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, whose name I have spelled here on this template. And the story of this sheikh is, one time he was walking with his students. So he's the worshipful master and his students are the brothers under him. They were walking in the middle of this town square, and they see a beggar on the street. And the sheikh pointed at the beggar and said that if you look at him, he's better than me. And the students were shocked that why would you say that? Like, you're this great holy man, you're a high mystic. This is just some beggar on the street begging for scraps, begging for food. And he said, no. He said, overnight, if I'm not humble and if I'm not grateful, God or the grand architect could put me in his position and put him in my position. And that's what we see right now, Brother Jake, is the aspect of being humble. When we have people that have some people in the world that are of the elite that can end poverty 10 times over in this world, but
Right.
they can walk by a human being who's suffering on the street and laugh at him. And I've seen that happen one time here in the Philadelphia area. It was middle of the winter, freezing cold, and this guy was probably starving to death or freezing to death, probably both. And I saw these people. There was a concert hall right next to this guy, and they were going and they were laughing at him as they were walking by, and that just kind of shattered my heart. And I went to the pizza place that was next to the concert hall. I got him some hot food, and I made sure he was able to get to a shelter, so he probably didn't freeze to death overnight. And that's important, my brother. Is what society are we dealing with right now, where we look at somebody lesser than us and laugh at them and laugh at their misery or their condition, not knowing in the split of a second, Brother Jake, your whole world can come crashing down. Everything can flip overnight. In a second, people's lives have changed in different scenarios that have taken place throughout human history. And you could lose everything. You could lose your family. You could lose your income. You could lose everything. So always be humble and be grateful. And that's what this master was teaching us, that if I'm not grateful, God can put me in his position and put him in my position. And we're living in a world where people who have connections or have money, they look down upon others, thinking that you're better than others. Nothing, your material wealth or your material success does not make you better than anybody. It's about your character and what good did you do for yourself and others. And that's what we gain from this story, even in our Masonic path, is to be on the level. Nobody's above you or beneath you. And unfortunately, even in the Masonic world, you have those that get lost in the aspect of elitism or having titles or certain numbers next to their names. And we always must remember is what made you a Mason, and that's to be a respectable and upright human being.
Right. And if we want to talk about parallels again, we can compare this with the Christian tradition of the beggar who gave the 3 coins and the rich man who gave nothing. The idea that it's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle and to get into heaven. There's again all these parallels between all these religions. That's again
Exactly.
that's why I feel like I can connect with it, even though I'm just now learning about everything that you're sharing with us.
Exactly, my brother. And it's like I said, education is very important, because there are those that always wanted to divide us as human beings, as Jews, Christians, Muslims. And if we all took the time to learn about each other, we would realize that they're doing the same exact thing that I'm doing. I sat down with a Jewish brother not too long ago and realized that what they do in their traditions and keeping the meat and the dairy separate and so many other things, like we do the same exact thing. And I realized that wouldn't the world be better and we'd be stronger if we come together and help each other, rather than be in this aspect of chaos and disunity? Because that's what the agents of chaos want. And I cannot stress this enough. They exist in all races, religions, groups, and countries of the world. It's not just limited to America alone. I've been to other countries, and there's always that balance between light and dark, and we must be on the side of the light, because even as Masonry teaches us, good and justice always prevail no matter what. Now we're dealing with the aspect of the Kaaba. Most people, Brother Jake, do not know that the holy city of Mecca in the east, again, you have to look to the east, and the Mecca and the Kaaba represents the perfect ashlar stone, as you see the perfect bricks. That's what the true Mason or the true Sufi Muslim is supposed to be. And what do you see inside of the Kaaba? Most people don't know from the inside what it looks like. You have the altar, and then you have the pillars. Then you have the brothers that are dressed in all white, equivalent to the lambskin of the Master Mason, in unison across the temple, the perfect ashlar stone with the altars and the pillars. And that's exactly, it's all one and the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a Muslim or a Freemason. It's all one and the same, as you and your audience have been discovering so far. And as what Islam teaches, that Islam has existed since time immemorial, just like how Masonry has existed since time immemorial. So the aspect of the Kaaba, or what the Muslims call the Kaaba or the black stone, they're not worshiping that black stone. That's just a representation of the temple of God. And that's what you have the Ka and the Ba in ancient Egypt, where you have the three stages of Masonry, you have the three stages of the soul, and the Kaaba is basically your soul, the soul in the human form, in the astral form, and then the Ak, which is the third stage. And Ak in Arabic is brother. So you have to become that brother by getting to that third stage, by infusing both the spiritual and physical realms together. Now, this is the part where I believe should be stressed more, because if you look at the aspect of the Knights Templar, and you've seen a Knights Templar, Brother Jake, right?
Yep.
And you see that the wool that they wear on top of their heads is basically the word Suf, or the Sufi, or Tasawwuf, means wool, or the garments of wool, those that come from the garments of purity. They wear these garments of wool of purity, and that's where the Knights Templar, when you see that wool on top of their heads, that's basically in a tribute to Sufism, the Suf, the wool, to be the aspect of the pure. Because when they were there studying with the assassins from the Islamic Shias, and also with the Sufis, they were taking that knowledge with them from the Middle East back to Europe. And it was the Al-Banna Sufi order with Rashid ad-Din Sanan, who was the equivalent of Hassan Saba, the old man of the mountain, who told the Templars that you might have the cross, but we'll teach you the meaning of the cross. And if you look at the cross, Brother Jake, and you fold it up, it becomes the perfect cube, just like the Kaaba of the perfect ashlar stone. And that's exactly what it is. And if you look at the Templars, when they went back to Europe, they were basically persecuted. They were accused of being heretics, and they were persecuted on what day? Which a Friday, which is a holy day. Yep. Friday being a holy day for Muslims. So they were also, you have this aspect of the Leo Thyself hoax, where they were saying they were worshiping this being called Baphomet. Yeah. Baphomet is actually a bastardization of Mahomet, because at that time the spelling and the English language was a little different compared to now. So Muhammad was spelled Mahomet, and the Leo Thyself hoax turned it into Baphomet. So the Templars were accused of worshiping Muhammad in secret, and as you see with the wool on top of their heads, paying tribute to the Sufi Muslims, and they were persecuted on a Friday, which is a holy day for Islam. And on the left-hand side, you see the Sufi and the Knights Templar both wear the white and the red. If you look at the assassin and the Templar, when they both would come at you in battle, they would both be wearing white and red, so you wouldn't know who is who. That's why even if you look at the Assassin's Creed video games, and if you tie the symbolism of what they call the Knights Templar and the assassins and the logos and stuff, it's pretty much, it's all connected to the Masonic teachings, and it's all teaching you the same exact thing. And that's what it is. It's that aspect of being pure of the soul, being pure with self, being pure with others. And that's what I stress to the Masonic scholars, even though there's no historical record that basically can prove this, but they have to address this missing link, because a lot of them have for far too long ignored it. And if one can put two and two together, you can see that there is a link, and we have to be able to put our biases aside for the sake of unity, brotherhood, and love, and be able to address all of these different issues for the sake of preserving the fraternity's future.
Right, and I would stress this to all the Templar historians as well, because there's this whole other side of the story that I feel like a lot of these researchers aren't looking at. They're looking at the European side. What's the story of the Templars in Europe? But there's this whole story with the Templars in the Middle East connected with Sufism and everything you've been sharing in this presentation. And a lot of these connections that you're making with Baphomet and Muhammad and the colors with the red and the white, and even the story of the old man in the mountain, there's all these connections that are missing in the popular research that's being done on the Knights Templar. So I would really stress this to all of those Templar researchers out there to consider this other side, because there's so much more to the story that we choose to overlook.
Yeah, that's right, my brother. And again, it's the bias that we have to overlook. It's like myself as an Eastern man. I notice in the aspect of the Masonic education system in the West that a lot of these Eastern paths are neglected. And if you look at the Masonic double-headed eagle, it tells you that it's okay, that ancient Greece and all this stuff, that it's fine. Every philosopher and historian and mystic will deserve their due credit. But you have to look at all of it, because Masonry encompasses the whole. And we're taught to look to the East for a reason, because that's where the light is. So we must give it its due credit. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for you allowing me to share what I'm sharing with you now. So we look at the aspect of Freemasonry, Brother Jake, and numbers don't lie. And if you look at the Gematria calculator, Gematria is the Kabbalistic aspect of the letters and the numbers, and how God associated the letters and the numbers. And a lot of the occultists use Gematria. So if you type in the word Freemasonry into the Gematria calculator, with the Jewish cipher, it comes up to the exact value, 787. If you look at the Arabic numbers on the left-hand side, if you look at the Arabic numbers 787, that's the square in the compass. And it's the same exact value that it comes up to in its Gematria. And what does 787 mean for the Sufi? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the square in the compass, for us, when we look at it, it means in the name of Allah, God, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. So when I first look at the square and compass before I joined, I realized that's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Do these people even know that? That the 787 is basically telling them that everything is for God, by God, and under God. And that's what this brotherhood is. It's a brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. And that's exactly, as you see with the Arabic numbers 787 and the Gematria, that it's all one and the same. And the lodges, there were these places in the Sufi institutions where the Knights Templar were studying with the Sufis and the assassins. And a lot of these places would be called lodges. And outside of these lodges, you would have the Arabic numbers 787. And this is long before Freemasonry officially existed. This is like in the time of the Crusades that this was going on. So this is an important link, my brother, that, like I said, it needs to be addressed. And people who have the common sense to put two and two together, they can see it with an open heart, mind, body, and soul. Because let's even take Freemasonry out of the equation. You won't learn in your life unless you have an open mind and a curious heart, and to be able to get light from everywhere, because that's what the true Mason is. I even heard stories of different situations, that the aspect of disunity and chaos, you cannot have that. The true Mason always promotes unity, brotherhood, because if you're fighting for that true path of justice, if you're the one that's bringing justice to the world, if you see evil, you stand up against it. That's what the aspect of the Mason is, to believe in God and to do the right thing. Now we have the cable toe, Brother Jake. The cable toe in the Holy Quran, or in the aspect of Sufism, is in Surah 3, verse 103. Hold fast together to the cable of Allah, God, and be not divided. Remember the blessing that Allah bestowed upon you. You were once enemies, then He brought your hearts together, so that through His blessing you became brothers. And this is also stressed because, let's say you're in a normal setting, like in the world, and mostly how America is, it's an aspect of ethnic enclaves and colonies, where most people tend to stick to their own areas, deal with their own people. And the beautiful thing about the Masonic Lodge is it doesn't matter where you live or what religion you are. It's basically telling you that outside of this place, you probably would have never met each other or came across each other. But here, this is where you have the aspect of God or the Grand Architect blessing you, bringing your hearts together, and you becoming brothers and holding fast together to the cable or the rope of God, and why it's important that anybody that's within your length to help them, you help them when they ask for your help. And that's the importance, my brother, of what this represents, not just in Sufism but in Freemasonry. Now you have the aspect of eating the word of God, haka or zikr. Now, every time you look at a Sufi master or a Sufi sheikh, he's always going to have beads and he's always going to be praying all the time. And this comes from the ancient Egyptian aspect of the haka. And they call this eating the word of God or zikring. So just like how a Mason, he's always supposed to be in a state of prayer and remembering God no matter where his life takes him. Now we move on to the magic carpet. Now, growing up, we see these movies and video games and cartoons, and anytime it's an Oriental theme or it's a like a Arabic theme like Aladdin, they're always going to have this magic carpet that flies when you get on top of it, right? So the magic carpet is basically the oblong square, which is how, like, the lodge is shaped, or the Noah's Ark was shaped. Everything was in the shape of the oblong square. You are the temple. And if you look at the Islamic prayer rug, you see the pillars, you see the archway, you see the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone, and you see the oblong square shape. And when you get on top of this, the magic carpet means that when you're in a state of prayer and you're praying to the grand architect, your soul starts elevating. And that's what they show you in these movies and cartoons, that whoever gets on top of the magic carpet, when it starts flying, that means you're flying or ascending to higher dimensions. Just like those on the Masonic path or the Sufi mystic path, the deeper you get into the game, the higher your realization about life and self get, and the higher your understanding gets about who I am, what my purpose is, and the who, what, where, and why, etc. That's exactly what it is.
And I know you've talked a lot about it on your YouTube channel, but there's a lot of these subliminal messages in pop culture that people don't even realize. Like you're talking about with Aladdin, the idea of the magic carpet and having your soul ascend with the idea of the magic carpet. There's tons of these subliminal messages. You were even talking about John Wick 3 not that long ago as well. There's all of these messages that are just fascinating if you really have the eye to be able to see them.
Exactly, Brother Jake. And what is the elder when John Wick goes from the west to the east to beg for his life? What does the elder tell him? The first thing he tells him is, "My son, why have you been so lost from me?" And my son is Mason, my son, Mason. And he tells John Wick that, "Why have you been wandering in the darkness in the west? You finally came to the east to get light and to get help." And that's what he's basically telling him. And that's how he's able to get a second chance at life, is through the elder, by going from the west to the east. And then he goes from the east back to the west, back to New York, to do what he needed to do in a more refreshed condition once he had received the light. And that's what the elder of the east says, that, "My son, why have you been so lost from me?" Because we're wandering here in the west, right? And we have to work our way back to the east. So there is a lot of truth to that. And when I was in the east, when I consulted with a lot of these Sufi elders, they have tasked me, Brother Jake, this is a lifelong mission that I'm on. They want me to reform the Masonic Brotherhood in the West, not just to defend it against the naysayers, but to reform it in a way where all of this stuff about elitism and ego and chaos and those that are not doing things the right way, over time in my lifetime, if I have the privilege to see that, I hope to be able to continue to work towards that. And that's basically what ties into the Wick franchise too. So, yeah.
You were talking about John Wick. I also wanted to bring up, though, that this idea of looking to the east, even with Judaism, we have the idea of Zionism, or returning to the Holy Land, the idea of looking back towards the east. Masons, when they address each other in public, they ask, "Hey, I see that you look to the east." It's this reminiscing back in the Holy Land, where a lot of these ideas were originally started and founded, that we need to continue to look back on our history and remember where we came from so we can use that to improve ourselves. And that's the whole concept of history and the teachings of Islam, or Masonry.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. And it's like you and I have both expressed. that the Masonic scholars of the West have to take these missing links seriously and not just address things that make them comfortable. Sometimes you must have uncomfortable conversations because it's all about the growth. You have to look at the growth aspect. And that's what we're trying to address here on your platform as well, which I'm truly grateful for. Now we're looking at the Islamic connection to America. Now, Brother Jake, I want you to guess. There's one state in the entire union of these United States. There's only one state that has an Islam Day, which is like a mandated state holiday. And I want you to guess what that state is.
Jeez, I don't know. Maryland?
Just take a guess, and I'll tell you.
Maryland?
Nope,
Washington, D.C.? No?
not Maryland, but Hawaii.
Hawaii,
Why?
really?
Yeah. Why? Because every September there's an Islam Day celebrated in the mid of September in Hawaii, and that's a mandated state holiday. And most people do not know that 250 years before the USA existed in 1776, there was what was known as the Kingdom of Hawaii. And if you look at the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii, what are they wearing? They're wearing the red fez, the Shriner's fez of the Muslim, and they're holding, I guess the sticks that represents the two pillars. So the Kingdom of Hawaii, and even their last king, King Kamehameha, was also a brother Mason, and he was also an Islamic Shriner. So that's
I didn't realize he was a Mason.
Yeah, that's right. He was also part of the
really
shrine.
Cool connection.
And there's another part that people don't get, that when America became its own independent country, Morocco, a Muslim country, was the first to recognize U.S. and its independence. So the first country that recognized America as an independent nation was Morocco, a Muslim country. And besides the Hawaii connection, they can also look up George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco. And all of these things, the Masonic scholars are not talking about it. The school history books are not talking about it. So this is all important. And every time we should walk away with learning something new. And that's what makes the endeavor worthwhile. Now, Brother Jake, we're looking at Saladin and Richard. Now, you're always taught. Yeah, that's right. And you're always taught that Brother Masons always spared each other's lives. Whether it was in the American Civil War, you're always taught about those lessons that Brother Masons on the opposite side spared each other's lives. In World War II, World War I, where these guys on opposite sides who hated each other were fighting each other on the battlefield, but they sat together in lodge. It was the same story with Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. Most people do not know this, that Saladin and Richard were brothers, that every time Richard was sick or he needed help, Saladin would send his physicians and check up on him or send him horses. Anytime anything happened to Saladin, Richard would send his people to check up on him. And there was even one time where there was about to be a marriage between the two families, with Saladin's brother and marrying somebody from Richard's family. So our Masonic Brotherhood, most people do not realize that whether it's the American Civil War, World War I and II, or what we see in the Holy Land, Brother Masons can be on the opposite sides of the conflict, but together they are serving the same purpose in many ways for the defense of their self and their peoples. And that's why Saladin, with his Masonic characters, when he protected the Christians and Jews in the Holy Land, and he made sure that they were allowed to visit their holy places, protected their relics, protected their places of worship, because that's what Prophet Muhammad, the widow's son, originally taught for those who are upkeeping his tradition. And also, if you go to Jerusalem, the Holy Sepulchre, which is a holy Christian church, ever since Saladin passed the keys on, or it was given to Saladin, ever since then, from that time, 1,000+ years ago, up until now, Brother Jake, that each generation of that Muslim family has passed the keys down to the next generation, and they are still maintaining the responsibility of that church in Jerusalem that people don't know about. That's honoring the brotherhood between Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. That doesn't matter if we were on opposite sides, we're Christians, Muslims, Jews. At the end, we're all one and the same in this short human life, trying to do the right thing.
And if we're talking about Saladin, I believe it was the Horns of Hattin, or the Battle of Hattin, where he actually spared the Christian crusaders' lives. And again, we see that connection, that even though we're on opposite sides of this battle, that we can still choose to respect each other and
Exactly.
to try to come to an understanding of each other's points of views. And that's the whole idea with Masonry again.
Exactly, my brother. And now we're back to the Masonic equation. If you look at the Scottish Rite degree of the Knight of St. Andrew, you have the Templar Knight. And what does the green represent? The green represents Islam. So you have a lot of these Templars that were there studying Islam and studying occult Sufi texts. And then you have a lot of the aspects of, being knighted and all of those things. So even the Scottish Rite is teaching you in the Knight of St. Andrews and in the 17th degree about the connection between Sufism and Freemasonry. Same thing in the Masonic double-headed eagle. When we pray, Brother Jake, when the Muslim is praying, just like how you're on the magic carpet, the oblong square, you say salam, or peace, to both sides, the right side and the left side, because God is everywhere. Knowledge is everywhere. As you've seen a Muslim pray, when he's done praying, he's going to say a prayer to the right and to the left. And that's equivalent to the double-headed eagle, which in itself says that my faith is in God. So just like how the Muslim is putting his faith in his God and saying salam to both sides while praying on the oblong square on the magic carpet, this is what it's teaching us, that God is everywhere, and you must be able to accept knowledge from all directions in which it may be given to you.
Yeah, I never realized that connection with the double-headed eagle. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So now we're looking at know thyself. Now this is also, if you go to the Scottish Rite in the Washington, D.C., their main house of the temple, you have this inside inscribed in the same place where they display all the holy books on the altar, where it says, I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. So Sufi proverb, and it's teaching you that all your life, Brother Jake, you're taught to look outside, you're taught to look above, but not knowing that God is in a place where you least expect it. Is basically, this world has been given to humanity, and humanity has to decide what the future of this world will be. We can't blame God if things are not going right. It's us collectively. If we all collectively come together, and it's like what I see here in Philadelphia, that the violence has been out of control these last 2 years, where they even have surpassed Chicago and New York in terms of the gun violence. And I stress to the people, if you all collectively came together, did the right thing, and stood up against those that were causing trouble, then you could change your own neighborhoods overnight. It falls to the people. It falls to the neighborhood and the neighbors, that because everything happens on the local level. What happens on the local level affects you more. And that's what I tell people, is that you got to look for those answers within. Most of our lives, we're always looking for validation and trying to do the right thing and trying to get the validation from others. But I always tell people, let your heart be your guiding key. What you want to do in your life, Brother Jake, or whoever is listening, you already have that within you. So when people tell you who they are, you believe it. On top of that, you listen to your heart. Let your intuition guide you, and you will never go wrong in your life, because you always honored yourself. And if you honored yourself, you honored thy creator, the grand architect. And to summarize, we also have, the Sufi symbol, as you see on the right-hand side, which is the crescent and the star in the Sufi heart. And that has the wings on it. So your heart, as you're on the magic carpet and you're trying to become one with the Kaaba, the ashlar stones, meeting your brothers on the level, wearing all white, with the pillars and the altar and the wings flying high to the heavens, that's exactly what you represent. And I had a dream like that, where I was in this beautiful castle, what the Masons call the Celestial Grand Lodge, and I saw the squaring compass with the wings that was flying around me. So that reminded me a lot of the Sufi and Masonic path that I'm on, which is a beautiful thing. And in terms of this presentation, Brother Jake, and what I've been able to share with your audience, I'm ready to accept any questions or comments or anything that might be of an interest to you So we can see that whether you're a Freemason or you're a Sufi Muslim, it's all one in the same, my brother.
That's for sure. And if you want to bring up that last slide so people can see your information, I noticed that. I want to make sure
yeah.
you got your credit in.
Yeah, I just got my email there. So if people want to email me, you could just email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com, or you could just look me up on YouTube. Just type my first and last name and I'll pop right up. And if you have any questions or comments, I can take them now. Or if in the future you would like to contact me, I'm open to that as well. So, and I hope, Brother Jake, that I was able to answer many questions that you had or your audience had about what is that connection or similarity between the Sufi Muslim or the Freemason, and you realize it's all one and the same. It's all the same. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I really appreciate you for coming on here and sharing all this information with me, because I certainly didn't know any of this really at the beginning, and now it's created in me an interest in pursuing this more. It is a very interesting subject, and especially relating to Masonry and my own religious journey. There's so many connections that I'm definitely going to look into it deeper. But
exactly, my brother. And to basically say what Sufism is saying, whether you're a Jewish, you're a Christian, or Muslim, be the best that you can be. If you're following the Jewish path, there's the Kabbalah. If you're following Christianity, there's Gnosticism. If you're in Islam, there's Sufism. So it's just like how it says in the Holy Quran that it doesn't matter what you believe in. As long as you do right by God and believe in God and are righteous, then on the day of judgment, you shall have no grief. That's what Freemasonry is promoting too, that as long as you have a belief in a supreme being, you do your own thing, be the best that you can be a good human being, and all of it is going to take you to the same exact destination. If I'm following A road, B road, C road to get to Chicago from Philly, then it's all getting me to the same destination no matter which route that I take. And that's one mountaintop and many different paths, my brother. And I hope one day down the road, I do get a chance to come to Chicago and see you and enjoy the beauty of the city.
That'd be awesome. Definitely email me. That'd be something I'd be interested in as well. But with that, thank you for coming on. And everybody who's watching, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I will be putting the audio only version of this out on all of our major podcast platforms, as well as iHeartRadio, which we just got on not that long ago. So, Salman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you always and your audience, and thank you for having me.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.